Hey guys, and welcome to another show and tell video. Now, I've been away for a few days. I know you guys miss me. You think I'm just playing around, but in fact, I've been busy picking up a collection in New Orleans, Louisiana, about 700 guns, believe it or not. And you've already seen the thumbnail. That's just a teaser. I'm going to show you some of those guns, and then we'll probably do a series of videos picking out some of the special guns in this collection. Now, this was the collection of Don Andrews. I knew Don not nearly as well as I knew Peter. Peter, as you remember, collected mostly Walders. Don, however, collected a little bit of everything, although if you look at this collection, it's almost all German pistols. You do see a couple of modern rifles. Actually, he was a hunter. So those are modern rifles stacked against the radiator here, and a couple of flintlocks. But that's it. Those were all the rifles in the entire collection. But German pistols were his forte. Now, I'm told that he really got his passion for German pistols because he was in the U.S. Army and in Germany right after the war. He was in the U.S. Army, a first lieutenant, and later the Army Corps of Engineers. And while he was in Germany post-war, he helped with reconstruction, especially in manufacturing, where they were converting factories from wartime production to civilian use. And so he really got a passion being in a lot of these factories. He picked up a lot of late war guns, which you're going to see in just a few minutes. Now, I mentioned already that I had a few contacts with Don. We did a few business deals. I was aware that he was a huge collector. But Don really came to the forefront of my attention when Katrina hit. I heard about this guy in New Orleans who had a huge collection, and he had guns in safes all over the city. I think there was about 6 bank vaults where he stored guns. And if you know Katrina, the hurricane came through and people thought, okay, we're fine. But then the lake, the dam broke. I think it was Lake Charles, flooded the entire city. And a lot of these banks, which don't have basements, by the way, because of the low-lying land, a lot of these banks were filled waist deep with water. And so in the safes, anything that was up to about 3 feet was completely ruined, and many of his really rare guns, I'm told a lot of Lugers, Navy Lugers, and basically a lot of expensive guns were completely ruined because they sat in brackish water for at least a month because the National Guard wouldn't let you come back into the city. They closed it all off. So a lot of guns were completely ruined, and they went off for parts or restoration. He basically sold the ones that were ruined. The other guns that were not ruined actually sat then in that humid air because the air conditioning, the electricity was out. So it sat in humid air for at least a month or more. And all I can say is I can just imagine how beautiful this collection was at one time. But nonetheless, these guns still have value, and I'm bringing them to all of you, which might be a good thing in that, remember that video I did? It was 7 German pistols that you can still buy for under $1,000. Well, right after I did that video, COVID hit and prices went up. So people write to me after watching that video and say, where are these guns under $1,000? Because now all of them that I mentioned are pretty much over $1,000. That's good if you're a collector because the values went up. But if you're trying to buy, it's tough to find guns that are under $1,000. This collection will have a lot of guns under $1,000. So you want to stay tuned to our channel and keep checking out our website because we're going to start listing them starting tomorrow. Just to wrap up Don's life, he actually died in November of 2019, and it's just taken this long to settle up some of the estate issues, but I was able to visit there this past week. He died at the age of 90. He had worked in the oil and gas industry. He was a geologist and worked in Louisiana in the oil and gas industry and made a lot of friends there. He is well known in that community. Now, Don also collected other things, just like actually at Peter's house. I was amazed at all the things he collected, but Don had Hummels in his house, and he had right in the doorway, there was a stack of canes. There must have been 300 canes. I brought home a couple of them. This one tickled me a little bit. There was a couple canes. One had a 1911 Colt, and there was another one with a pistol. No, these do not shoot, but they're just kind of cool looking canes. I'm not ready for the cane yet, but probably someday soon. Now, just one more story before we get to the guns. I know some of you are already writing in the comments, shut up and show us the guns. One more story. When I landed in New Orleans, I knew that that was the home of the World War II Museum. I'd heard about it. And as I got off the plane, this is what greeted me. As soon as I walked off the plane, this was the sign that was like an entire wall. And because we were on a short leash, meaning we had to get in and get out really quickly, a long ride home, I decided I want to go back and see this museum. And so that reminded me, I want to say thank you to our Patreons who will make it possible for me to go back to the museum. I'm trying to get permission to go in after hours. What I'd like to do is film the museum and talk about the guns used throughout the war by walking through the museum. They call it the Road to Berlin. They also have a section, the Road to Tokyo, and walk through the museum and just give you a sampling of what's there. For those of you who can attend, maybe overseas or physical limitations keep you from traveling, my goal is to bring that museum to you. So stay tuned, and thank you to our patrons who make it possible for us to travel and do videos such as these that will be educational. Now, for the patrons, I'm going to do a separate giveaway for some of these items, such as this cane. We'll contact you separately and talk about some of the giveaways, but we have this cane, and I wanted to show you this. If you watched my last video about the Patterson, I called it the gun that won the West. Turns out that Don had this in his, well, it was on his kitchen counter. But these, according to these people, these are the guns that won the West, and it certainly is more than just the Patterson. So we'll be giving this, oh, here's a Patterson right here. Check out, you can tell by the profile. Cool. That might be a Walker right there because it has the longer cylinder. And turns out some people disputed my claims and said it was the Winchester that won the West. Well, we're going to give this away to one of our patrons. Comes with this booklet, but that'll be another giveaway that was in Don's collection. He also has some prints, more than just these, but this is an award given in the name of the Fuhrer, and this looks like a police award. And then also some really cool prints that we're going to give away. So our patrons can stay tuned. Thank you for your contributions. We're going to put it to good use in our travel to New Orleans to film the museum. And we'll have these giveaways for you in the next week or so. Hey, now I know you're screaming, shut up and show us guns. So come with me. I got my gloves. Let's go check out the guns. So here's how I spent my Saturday. My goal, you can see more boxes of guns, and this is not all of them, but my goal was to lay out all 700 guns. And guess what? I didn't make it. This is about 200 guns of the 700. Again, I wanted to get all 700 laid out on this floor so I can say, here's what this collection looked like. But it's not going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and just highlight some of these. And believe it or not, these boxes, I haven't even opened them yet. So each one of them was wrapped in a bag like this and stored in bank vaults. And I haven't even gotten through them all. So please don't write and say, do you have one of these? Do you have one of these? Because give me a chance to get all these opened. I'll log them all in by serial number, make and model, and then we'll start putting them on the site, and then I can better answer your question. But I'd say the average gun price here is going to be right around $1,000. And you can see that he really liked P38s. Let's just take this row, start at the top and come all the way down. You can just see these are all P38s. And then when I ran out of room, I started back up at the top and I did another row of P38s. Now, one interesting story here is I was told he did not collect any American guns. He only collected German pistols. And lo and behold, look at this one. Seems to me somebody lied. There's an American gun, but guess what? So this is a Parkerized Ithaca, 1911, issued at a late war period. But when I turned it over, you can see that it was used by the water police in Mannheim. That's not Mannheim, Pennsylvania. That is Mannheim, Germany. So he was stationed over there, and I would just imagine that when the war was over, the Americans, of course, left a lot of equipment, including these pistols, in Germany, and so the Germans used them. Now, I would think they had plenty of P38s and Lugers to spare, but with all the GIs bringing those home, maybe they needed to use some of the GIs' guns, or maybe they traded. Anyway, this was used for the water police. Now, here's the other example. Here you can see these are the little bags they came in. I'm going to put them back into the bag. But these are actually Victory models. You can always tell the Victory model. It's a Smith & Wesson, by the way, and it has a V prefix. So that's a Victory model, and there's the serial number. These are tags which I want to leave on there. You can see the condition of the gun. Fortunately, he really greased them up heavily. You look at the amount of grease in here. It's gonna be a full-time job just to have somebody clean these up. So I probably am gonna say, hey, I'll give you a little bit of a discount if you clean it yourself, because it would take me a month to clean all these guns. Some of the bores are just filled with grease. But the good news is, because of Katrina and as I mentioned, the humid air, these would have fared a lot, well, look at my gloves already. These would have fared a lot worse if it hadn't been for all the grease that he put on it. But the point I was going to make is, this one is Bavarian Municipal Police. You can barely see it. So again, a GI gun that was left behind and picked up and used by the German police. And here's the second Victory. Now what's interesting, okay, let me show you the V as in Victory. This one doesn't have as much grease. Actually, this one is pretty clean. And this one, you can see the German proofs. That's actually post-war Eagle N proof. That's not a Nazi Eagle N, but it's a post-war Eagle N. So it was used by the Germans after the war. And you see here a gecko marking. That is a German retailer. I have no idea why the gecko marking would be on there, but I'm sure some of you knowledgeable Germans will tell us. I can't imagine they were selling these in retail stores at the end of the war. They were worried about an insurgency, which is why people like Don Andrews were over there. And my father-in-law, in fact, he was in Germany right after the war, 1946. And they were over there, and by the way, everything was calm, and the German people were very gracious to the American soldiers, but they were still worried about an insurrection or rioting and trying to keep everything calm. But this, look at the case hardening on this one. The trigger, I can tell the grease, he could barely pull that back. So the workings are dried grease in there, and that just needs to be cleaned up. But you can tell this would be in excellent condition because of the case hardening. And that's all original. Yeah, the trigger and the hammer are very stiff. Now check out this gun. This, I call this the pancake gun. I think it's designed to go in your pocket. You can see the folding trigger. Remember, the Patterson had the same thing. This has a German crown proof. Now this gun was maybe made for export, and again, I think it's immediate post-war, World War I, that is. German made. This is made by Sauer. I've never seen one before. It looks like a .25 caliber. And they must have been sending them to North America, Russia, and England. So they had export to those countries. I'll have to research this a little bit because I don't know what it is. I've not seen one of these before, so I'm going to have to research a little bit. But I'm thinking it's designed to fit in your pocket, and it's thin. In fact, it's about wallet size. And then also that won't catch on your clothing when you pull it out. He actually had several of these. So speaking of the .25 calibers, I have, I mean, again, this is only about 1/3 of the guns. I still have a lot to go through, but you can see the number of little pistols he had. Now these are going to be fairly inexpensive. This is that is the 1940 Eagle N proof. So this was wartime production. Again, not seen one of these before. And unknown, it says unknown manufacturer, and it looks like that's 22 caliber. But he has a lot of these little pistols. And this one, it looks like it has police marking. So this would be like a carry piece a backup piece in your pocket. That's definitely a police marking there. Again, I mentioned he has a lot of police guns. If people like .25 calibers, this is 32, but if you like .25 calibers, if you look at this whole row, you can see a lot of the, here's a Czech Duo. This is dated 1945, so that's pretty rare because by then they had stopped making them. Czechoslovakia was, well, most of it was taken by the Russians, but not all of it. But this was probably a GI capture gun right at the end of the war. You see those. Here's a Mars, .25 caliber Mars. It's got a Czech, it looks like a Czech Lion, so that was probably Czechoslovakian factory. You see the plum finish on it. There's an earlier Czech Duo, and this one's dated 1941. That's the Czech Lion. And there's the little bitty holster that goes with it. That's kind of cool. Actually, yeah, on the back, Duo. So it goes with the Duo. I'm going to highlight a few guns, but first let me say something about the condition. And by the way, Randy, my cameraman, said I look like Scrooge McDuck, who swims in his gold. I wanted to lay on top of these and just kind of swim through them, but I'm in a sea of pistols here. And again, this is only a third. The rest are going into storage for a while, and we'll bring them out when these are all sold, because we can't possibly handle all these guns at once. Here's a good example, though. So I look at this one, and I told you there's a lot of police guns. First of all, the large AC, most of you would not recognize unless you're a P38 collector. That would mean that it was an FN slide. FN was the Browning Belgian slide, so that was made in the FN's Browning factory, Fabrique Nationale. It's a dual tone, and the condition is not too bad except for here on the barrel. Dual tone means phosphate and blued. You can see the damage being in one of these cloths, and then it gets wet or moist from being in a safe. And again, 2 months, no air conditioning. Humidity is about 99%. Salt air, by the way, salt water. The bag makes an impression. This probably, a restorer could clean that up, but then again, the finish would never be original again. So, you know, we're going to sell them as is, and this will be a nice gun for somebody. But actually, I think I said this was a police gun, but I believe that is actually Waffen stamped. There is a Police Eagle F in this group that looks a lot like this. It's a dual tone Police Eagle F, and it also has the same kind of water damage to it. A real shame. I hate to even show you this stuff. By the way, if you don't have a dehumidifier, I'm not selling dehumidifiers, but we do make them available because I'm a firm believer. I put a dehumidifier in all of my safes. But let's take a look at this shameful PPK. This is an Eagle C. I think one of my Peter videos, I had an Eagle C that was in the million serial range. The one that I had 2 matching magazines. This one was, I can tell, was a beautiful gun, and then this was recent damage. The rust was allowed to stay on there and began to eat into the finish is one thing, because then you could restore it, but it eats into the metal and leaves pits. So the restoration of something like this is a very expensive project. Others are not so bad. BYF 43, so that's Mauser 1943. This one is not too bad. You see some deep pitting right there. So probably the bag was moist there and just laid up against that metal. A little pitting here, a little pitting here, but generally still a very collectible gun. In fact, you could see this was a beautiful P38 at one point. Now just has a little bit of scars on its face, kind of like me. You know what? After a bit of age, that's what you begin to look like. And then this beautiful late war Radom, you can see has the wooden grips, it has the phosphate finish, and you can see the water damage on the surface. This, again, this is not too bad. It could be cleaned up. It still has value, again, around the muzzle. One of the surprises in this collection, I actually never saw one before. It gives you can tell right away that it's Doral, aluminum. It has like a greenish look to it. That's anodized paint on there, not bluing. And I thought, oh, a Doral PP. You can see the condition with the grease all over it. But what made this stand out to me is bottom release. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is a 9mm. A lot of grease needs to be cleaned up. A 9mm Doral frame is absolutely unheard of. I've never seen one before because the Doral frames, even on a .32 caliber, were not safe in that they were too light and they cracked and were flawed. So it was an experiment that didn't really take off. Now, they did make them post-war, and I think they made some improvements in the metal. But the early Dorals were not strong enough. In fact, if you drill the button right here for the mag release, it weakens the frame and makes it unsafe. So a 9mm Doral frame, I'm sure they only made a few experimentally. So this is an extremely rare gun. I've never seen one before. Not even Peter had one of these. Oh, look at the grease in there. You need to take a Q-tip like you're cleaning out your ears and get that grease out of there. But again, I probably won't have time to do 700 guns cleaned up. Look at the grease in that ejection port. I can't really get a good shot of the bore, but if I did, you'd find the grease all down inside there as well. Another rare gun. This, of course, is a 1934. This is a model 1935, 1940 dated. This is a Doral frame as well. So the Doral frame on a wartime Beretta went to the Italian Army. This is also a very rare gun. I've not seen one before. I have to do a little bit of research because I'm not sure of the value. Here's another surprise. Again, we have some, these were the PPKs. This is a DRP. I did a whole video on the DRP. That is the German postal system. And this was a gun that went to the postal inspectors. This one survived Katrina. You can see the condition on this one was not damaged at all. But this is a nice surprise. This is a PP in the holster, and you can see that it says Bahnschutz, basically Railway Police in Stuttgart, 1940. Railway Police, these were AK. Usually they came as a PP, but they do have some Railway Police that are PPKs. These were dated. I have several of these in my collection, but these are dated 1940. The holster is dated 1940. And these, like the SS guns, a lot of times these are mistaken for an SS gun because they numbered the slide and they often numbered the magazine. I believe this magazine is not numbered. I see them numbered sometimes on the spine, sometimes on the side, but often they come with two matching magazines. So if you find a gun like this, which has a matching slide, frame, and magazine, you often are going to say, oh, that's an SS gun. Well, if you buy my book that's coming out, hopefully in a couple of weeks, I talk about the differences, how you can tell this is a Railway Police gun. The 1940 would be a clue, and also the holster would be a clue. But this is not SS, this is Railway Police. Here's another example. This was a beautiful PPK. You can see the damage here, but still collectible. Somebody will love it. And then this one, this nice 22, I said, oh, here's a nice 22 with the box magazine, correct 22 caliber magazine. But when I turned it over, you can see the saltwater spotting on that one. Let's take a look over here, just a couple more, and we'll wrap it up. We see also a lot of Sauers. He has a whole row of Sauers, and what you notice right away, I mentioned he was in factories at the end of the war. He must have been in the Sauer factory because I see a lot of these really late war guns. Here's a 9mm, extremely rare. There's the serial number. They added a J. Maybe it was probably experimental. I've not seen one like this before. No damage, but it looks like it was never finished. There's no proof marks. So again, I think in the factory at the end, 9mm Sauer, never saw one before. This one again, 512. Notice the serial numbers. 500,000 were at the end of the war. This one, however, does show damage. The white grips, I believe, are post-war. This one does have damage to it, but again, a lot of late war Sauers. Here's another one, probably brought home by a GI. It's Germany 1945, and then probably the initials of a GI. That would be my best guess. And yeah, you can see where the bag was up against the finish here again. Look at the salt water eating away. That's a zinc bottom. I don't see a serial number, so that was added later. So this does not have a German serial number, but the GI who brought it back probably had to put a serial number on it. But this is a vet bring back. Here's another one. Again, no finish, end of the post-war grips, I would guess. And again, the serial number, this one is 511, I think. So everything in the 500,000 range was in the factory at the end. I'm convinced that Don Andrews was in the factory at the end picking up these guns. The last group of guns I want to mention, there's a lot of these HSCs, and those are Mauser 1914, 1934. The vast majority are police guns, by the way. These ones with the black grips all the way at the top, those are all post-war. It says French put together, so the French took over the Mauser factory, used them for their own police. Here's one, you can see the staining and the unusual pitting pattern here. And then the other side is really poorly done. You can see the bag marks. So when you see these on the website in this condition, you'll know it came from Don Andrews' collection. He has notes about it, but this is a Police Eagle L. So this was issued to the police, and somebody's going to love it. We have a couple of flare guns that will be coming out. Those are actually in pretty good shape. And then we have some Lugers. You just see a short stack, again, like the pancake gun. This is a short stack of Lugers. I'm hoping there'll be more Lugers in the box. So far, these have been mostly between the war police guns, but hopefully there'll be some more Lugers. But again, small caliber German pistols seem to be what he specialized in. All right, and I thought I was going, but this is one more mystery gun. Check this out. So this is a percussion pistol. I think it's 66 caliber. You might say that's a shotgun, but I think it's 66 caliber. And yet it has an Eagle stamp. Now that's a Eagle SP, which is a Nazi era rework stamp. I have no idea if that's fake. It's on there twice. If you were going to fake it, why would you use a Eagle SP, since nobody knows what that is? So if you know why Germany would be stamping it, maybe they were just gathering up all the guns that civilians had and, you know, re-stamping them and putting them in storage. I don't know, but I certainly can't explain a Nazi era 1940 Eagle on a percussion pistol in 66 caliber. Hey, thanks for watching. I have a lot more boxes to open and more guns to go through, but I'm going to get started tomorrow putting these on our website. So make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. As I go through these guns, I'm going to be highlighting anything that I find that is really unusual that I want to bring to you. But in the meantime, I have a lot of standard guns that'll be a little bit cheaper than our average gun. Some of you have said, you know, I can't afford anything on your website. Hopefully, these under $1,000 will be guns that you can afford. Thanks for watching. We'll be coming back to you real soon.